Hey, welcome to Financial Revelations. I am David Safransky, your host. I had to take a week off. I had to go to Chicago for, I had a kid with a medical emergency. He's fine. Everything's going to be okay. But they called, and I got on a plane and I went, my wife and I. So I'm back. Of course, you can hear me every Thursday on WCRF 103.3 in Cleveland or on the Moody Radio App. You can also catch me on Twitter at skibucks1, and you can call here anytime with a question, and we'll actually return the call or send you an email, 1-800-344-2534. But we're accessible in a lot of ways. And if you have questions, you could email me, but it's actually better to email Corey with your questions, and we'll answer them on a podcast. We have one that we're going to do next week. So if you have questions, just reach out. We love to answer them, and we love to hear from you. We love to hear your opinion. I still get opinions on the sweater that I wore one time. I love that sweater. I just wore it the other day because I was going to a meeting where I know it's a cold room. And man, did they have the heat cranked up that day, and that sweater's like 4 inches thick. It's like, I think it could take a bullet. I'm pretty sure I could get shot with that thing, but I love the sweater. In any case, what I have planned for you guys today is that I am starting a book club reading list. People ask me where I get my information from, and I read a lot. There's no doubt about that. I read a lot of research. I read a lot of politics. I read a lot of nonfiction books. I've never really loved reading fiction. I have read fiction before. I got into a Tom Clancy kind of rut for a while where I read every one of his books, but I like to read nonfiction. It's just where I'm at. I don't have anything against people who read fiction. I figure if you're reading, you're improving. You're getting vocabulary, you're making our minds work, our imagination. Those are all good things. So whatever you read, that's great. But what I read and what I like to learn from is books on the economy, books, predictions on the future, demographic changes. And I'm going to start us off with 4 books. I have 4 books to launch. I want to give you guys kind of a runway, a head start. And then I'm going to add a book quarterly to it that I've read or that I'm reading and that I think that you would benefit from. So the 4 books I have to start are really interesting books. One of them the first one is called The Accidental Superpower, and it's by Peter Zeihan. And what it talks about was actually written in 2013, and I read it because I wanted to see how correct he was about things, because he made these predictions back in 2013. And, lo and behold, he has read Russia like the back of his hand. It is uncanny. So I'm gonna pick up another one of his books that was written recently as soon as I finish this book. But The Accidental Superpower by Peter Zeihan talks about demographic shifts, the end of the Bretton Woods Agreement, which most people don't even know about. But as World War II was ending, it wasn't even over yet. We basically called all of Europe to, I think it was Vermont or Maine, and they were coming there thinking, oh, we're basically going to turn our lives over to America, and they're going to rule us, and they'll be the ruling class, and we didn't. We said, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to open up our markets to you, and you're going to be able to trade here for free. It's the only time in history that an international agreement has been signed in one day without one dissent. The Europeans couldn't believe that we were doing this, opening our markets to them, because they were so used to being ruled. And not only were we going to do that, but we were going to guarantee energy security. So this is a great book. I love this book. You're going to love it too. The next book is a book, it's not necessarily about economics or anything like that, but it's called Never Split the Difference. And it's written by Chris Voss. And Chris Voss was the senior lead hostage negotiation specialist for the FBI for a number of years. And I got to tell you, I don't like to do this all the time, but when I'm having a hard time getting somebody to just make a decision, even, when it's in their best interest, I will employ some of these negotiation tactics. I have read this book 4 times, and I'm going to reread it again because I love going through it. It's not a difficult read. It's not a long read. But I'm telling you, if you read this book, and Corey's going to put all the books up here so you could see them. We can't put a link up because you're not going to be able to click on the link, but they're easy to find. You can get them all on Amazon. These, the strategies that Chris Voss employs to get people to do things that they don't really want to do and sometimes aren't even in their best interest as a hostage taker are actually very applicable to business and to life in general. And I'm not saying that we're going to get people to do things they don't want to do. We're not going to do that. But it's a way to get people to kind of see your way of thinking, to move off the dime a little bit, to forward a conversation that you want to have. This is great. I love this book. You're going to love this book too. The next book, I think everybody has to read. I want you to read this book. Also, not a long and difficult read. There's a little bit of economic jargon in it, and it gets a little bit wonky at times, but I think you'll appreciate the wonkiness of it because The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels is a great read. And it really talks about energy security, America security, and it kind of plays in line with the Accidental Superpower because they talk about a lot of the same things with where we get our security from and what we do that creates a lack of security for the United States, economic security and physical security. America is uniquely positioned because we have oceans on both sides and the land masses, the left coast and the east coast, heavily populated. So it presents a very difficult situation for our enemies to attack. And then we have Canada to the north, and really 70% of Canada lives within about 50 miles of the U.S. border because without us, they're just a frozen tundra, and they realize that. So they have to trade with us. They're one of our biggest trading partners. And to the south, we have Mexico. And Mexico is really kind of disjointed politically. Mexico could really be defined politically. And I don't want to, this is not pejorative anyway. I've been to Mexico several times. Mexico's a wonderful place. But the way that they are ruled, it's these mountains and valleys, and the valleys are ruled by drug cartels, and it's a very disjointed national political party that's controlled by cartels. And so we're not really at danger from Canada or Mexico. We don't have to defend those borders. We have to defend the southern border against illegal immigration, but that's it. They're not attacking in the true sense of attacking and taking us over. The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels by Alex Epstein. This is a great book. He just testified in front of Congress. I'll tell you what, when your enemy is against your friends, you really see he must be onto something here. So this is a great read, and it will give you a perspective on why we need American energy is so critical. It is so important to us. And the current administration has basically, in a lot of ways, shut down that energy industry. It's very, very dangerous. It's a very dangerous place to be. We don't want to be there. We want to exploit our own energy. It's very important. The last book in my book club, or reading list, however you want to coin it, is The Virtues of Capitalism by Scott Ray and Austin Hill. I originally kind of liberated this book from Moody Radio. It is so beautifully written, and it so wonderfully tells the story of why capitalism is so necessary to the world and what it has done to lift people out of poverty. And this is what we should be teaching, not just in our schools, but to everybody. Everybody needs to hear why capitalism is so necessary. And we're living in a time where capitalism is coming under attack. And what our enemies do is whenever they don't like something, they don't want to debate you. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to hear your side of the story. They know everything. They don't want to hear your side of the story. You're either a racist or a Nazi or a homophobe or a bigot or something like that, I'm totally against that junk. You know, if you want to have a debate, if you want to talk to me about why I believe in capitalism, I'd love to have that conversation, and I'll listen to you why you think it's wrong. But you got to give me the same opportunity. So I was just watching something where a federal judge was at Stanford, and instead of hearing him out, this is a federal judge, the students just shouted him down the whole time. It is disrespectful. Yes, it's disrespectful. But beyond that, this is a college campus where we're supposed to have the free exchange of ideas, but those days are over. But we can't let them die. We got to fight back as hard as we're being fought against. This book will help you do that. And I love the read. It is not a wonky economics manuscript. It's not 500 pages. I tried to pick books that I like, that I think that you'll like, and I think you will like these. So The Accidental Superpower, Never Split the Difference, The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels, and The Virtues of Capitalism. You're going to love these books. Pick one. Don't try and read them all at one time. Just pick one. If I was going to start with one, I would start with The Virtues of Capitalism. You got to start with a good base that we can build off of. And I know the people that watch my podcast, and I know the people that are our clients and that we talk to, I know that they believe in capitalism. I know that you do. This will give you even more firepower for when somebody's saying, well, you know, socialism doesn't work because we just haven't tried it right yet. Well, Cuba's been trying it since 1950 or 1940 something. Venezuela's been trying socialism for a long time. It does not work. It does not work. It's shared misery. Capitalism works, and you'll see why. Hey, I want to go over a little bit of economic data in our remaining time. The Producer Price Index came out today, the PPI. There's the PPI, there's the CPI, there's a bunch of manufacturer indexes that come out. The economic data that came out today was very weak. Manufacturing in the Northeast way down. A lot of people think that the Fed may be stopping sooner than what we originally thought. I have July as the date for when the rate hikes stop. I still think it's going to be July because their rent, when the CPI came out, that was a little hotter. Rents were up 8%, and that real estate market has to be cooled. It's going to get cooled by the Fed. That's going to happen. I still think that the Fed is going to go 25 basis points this month of March. They have a 21-22 March meeting. On 22 March, I think they're going a quarter point. And I think they're going to go quarter points now. I think half points are off the table right now because of the banking issues that are going on. But bond yields have collapsed because of the bank problem that we had. We got some weak data. Two banks failed, but the Federal Reserve came out and said we're going to back up all deposits. They're not going to back up the shareholders of those banks. There's a difference between, and we have to separate this. There's people who own the stock and are investors in the bank, okay? And there's people who have money on deposit in the bank. Two very different things. The depositors are safe. The shareholders are not. Think of it like this. If you owned a business and you were the owner and the business went out of business, your investment in that business is gone, most likely. That's what happened to the investors in that bank. But the people who had deposits on the bank, savings, checking, their deposits are safe. The Fed has backed them up. So the banking industry is safe in general. There are some poorly run banks, and we'll go over more why that bank failed, but at a future date. And then I also read a lot of politics, and one of the questions that I got is, it wasn't really a question, but it was more of a statement about the Republicans are sissies. They haven't impeached Joe Biden. They were supposed to do this. He's this, he's that, he's everything. Well, here's what I think the strategy is behind the impeachment process. I think he is going to get impeached. I think the Republicans are going to impeach Joe Biden, but they're going to do it in 2024. What they want him to do is they want him, number one, to declare his candidacy for the presidency in the next election. So they want to see that happen Because when he declares, the sitting president declares, people fall by the wayside. People who are waiting to hear that, now they're not going to go fundraise. They're not going to ramp up their machine because they're not going to primary a sitting president. So the Republicans want those people to fall off. So I think they're going to impeach him in March of next year because it'll have to be in the news every single night while he's running for president. And I think there's going to be a recession. So there's going to be a recession in 2024 and an impeached president in 2024. So they're trying to, it's kind of like chopping down a tree where each successive whack weakens that tree. And that's what I think they're going to try and weaken the presidency by impeaching him in March of 2024 in the middle of a recession while everybody else has fallen away and not ramped up their donation machine. You know, they collect a lot of money, and he's going to collect a lot of money, and people are going to be put off by, one, a recession, and two, an impeachment. I think that's what's going to happen. Hey, if you have questions, reach out to us, okay? We're going to continue to do the quick hits. We're back. We are learning, too, that if I'm out of town and we have to record, we could do that, too. So it might not be the same sound quality and everything, but the information is going to be peak information. You're going to love it still. So I am David Safransky, a real American, a true red-blooded patriot, and the voice you can trust.